Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video we get to hear Dr. Bruce Lipton, the author of The Biology of Belief, speak about subconscious programs along with how they're formed, along with ways to change them, and how he wouldn't be able to write his book without reprogramming his mind. Alright, let's take a listen to Dr. Bruce Lipton.
You're not playing that happy, loving person except 5% of the day. 95% of our behavior is coming from below consciousness. And we're the ones that can't see it when we play it, but everybody else, of course, is seeing exactly what we're doing. So the whole idea is, are you living the life you want, or are you living the life you've been programmed? And the answer, unfortunately, is most of us are living the life we've been programmed, and the programming comes from other people, so it's not our lives. The reason, let's give a reason why programming occurs, okay? The brain is a computer, most powerful computer that humans have ever experienced, but it has parallels to computers, and number one is this. In the old days, when you would buy a computer before they put the programs in, you could bring it home, brand new computer, plug it in, push start, boots up, screen's on, and I say, do something. And people, well, no, I can't do anything. So you got a brand new computer. No. First, you have to put programs into a computer before you can use that computer. The brain of a human is the same thing. The screen lights up in the last trimester of pregnancy. It's ready, but there are no programs. So the first 7 years of a child's life is the brain is not operating at the higher level of consciousness, higher level, higher vibration. That's what we talk about. We put wires on a person's head, electroencephalograph, read brain function. A child up through 7 is not operating at consciousness except for a little bit. It's primarily operating at a lower vibration called theta. And I said, well, what is theta? I say, it's expressed as imagination. So that's how children can have a tea party and they pour nothing into the cup and then they drink the nothing and then they explain how that was the best tea they ever had. Or a child rides a broom saying it's a horse. In the child's mind, that is not a broom, it's a horse. But it's mixing imagination and reality. But theta is hypnosis. And the significance of that is children have to learn how to become a member of a family, the rules. Member of a community, the rules. I go, how can an infant, a young kid, learn these rules? They can't go to school, they can't read the book and all that. And I say, you don't have to. Nature provided theta, hypnosis, so that they can observe the parents, the family, and the community. Just observe their behavior and download those as programs. Age 7, then that's when they start to become more conscious and engaging themselves. First 7 years is programming. But after age 7, 95% of your life is coming from that program. So if you can program the child for the first 7 years, then the rest of the life of that child is actually an expression of that program. If you're playing a subconscious program, by definition, you're playing it not with consciousness, you're playing it without you even paying attention to it. And I say, but why? Well, that's what I said. The conscious mind is creative, but the conscious mind can think. I go, so what's the difference? I say, well, creative is all that imagination, but thinking is an inside. If I ask you, I say, tell us what you're doing next Monday. And it's not written here anywhere. And for a moment, you're going to say, oh, let me think. And then you're going to come up with an answer. And I say, yeah, but where was the answer? It wasn't out here. The answer was in here. So I said, oh, then you had to redirect your attention for thinking to look inside. But the moment you're looking inside, then you're not, by definition, using the conscious creative mind to look outside. And that's when the subconscious, as the autopilot, steps in and will manage the things that you're not paying attention to. But it will only manage it according to the downloaded program that you got in that first 7 years. And it's very hard. If I say, well, what program did you get in that first 7 years? And the issue is this, well, you were being programmed before you were born. Last trimester of pregnancy, we already know that programming is occurring. I mean, a simple thing is if you play music through the abdominal wall when a woman is pregnant and the fetus is inside, she plays the music. When that baby is born, it will instantly remember or know that music. It even, if the father is talking, the voice of the father is transmitted through the abdominal wall. Baby is born, the father says something, the baby knows exactly who that voice is. So that's even before you're born, okay? Then I say, yeah, but you got programmed from before birth, you got programmed a whole year from 0 to 1. I say, so what do you remember? You go, there was no memory there. I say, okay, you got another whole year of programming from 1 to 2. I say, what program did you get? He said, I don't know, because consciousness wasn't engaged. And so the problem is programmings were coming in, but the individual had no conscious awareness of the program. It just was record, playback, record, playback. That's what it's all about. And then I say, well, this becomes a problem, because then I say, well, what are your programs that essentially control your life? And the answer is, I have no idea what those programs are. So I just want to help people for a second, because it is established that only 5% of the time are we using the conscious creative mind to run our life. 95% of the time is coming from the program. So here's a simple insight. The things that come into your life that you like, they come into your life because you have a program to accept them. But those things that we want and we work hard and we sweat over and put a lot of effort, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make this happen. I'm working on it. I'm working real hard. Why are you working so hard? And the answer is not because the universe won't give it to you, is because unconsciously your program does not support that destination, and you're trying to override it with extra work and effort. So then life becomes a job, more or less, trying to get those things you want when your program unconsciously is sabotaging you. When people say the mind, the idea, oh, there's a mind, a single mind, I go, well, that's the first mistake. There are two minds. We mentioned conscious and subconscious. But we also have to mention this. They each have a different function, and they, most importantly, they learn in different ways. So the conscious mind's creative, and that means it's the one with the imagination and things that you want and you desire, and you can put that in, and you could read a book, a self-help book, and you say, oh, I got all this knowledge now from this book, and I went to the lecture, and I did all these things, I got all this knowledge, my life hasn't changed. I go, well, that's because the conscious mind, being creative, can learn in any number of different ways. You can just go, aha, I have a new idea, and your conscious mind can change. The subconscious mind, by definition, is the habit mind. And I go, significance. Habits resist change, because if habits change, then they're not habits anymore. So all of a sudden you say, well, if I download a habit, can I, think out of that habit? I go, no, because that's not how it learns. And so the conscious mind, and most people are very smart. I'm sure, look, this audience has been listening to you for a long time. They got great understanding, and many of them will go, yeah, I really understand what you've been talking about, but somehow or other, with all that knowledge, my life is still the same. And I go, that's because when you educate the conscious mind, that's easy. But that process does not create a habit. So you can have a super smart conscious mind, all the data, all the material. I read the book, I know everything about it. I go, yeah, but that doesn't change the program on the inside. A lot of people think, well, I'm going to give myself a good talking to. And that's where the joke comes, because I say, there's nobody in the subconscious mind. It's the exact equivalent of a hard drive in a computer. It's got programs in it, there's nobody in it, and you can talk to your blue in the face with the conscious mind, trying to tell the subconscious mind, change the program. I go, that's not how it learns a program. When I was teaching in a medical school, what was I teaching doctors? Well, at that time, genes turn on and off, and genes control the character. And then I say, well, as far as you know, you didn't pick the genes, and if you don't like your characters, you can't change the genes. And since they activate themselves, then you become a victim of your heredity. Oh my God, there's cancer running in my family. I have a cancer gene. And I go, okay, let's get to a real simple fact. Less than 1% of disease is connected to genes. Less than 1%. 90% plus is all stress related, okay? So all of a sudden I say, well, you want to try to adjust the genes. I said, the genes didn't have a problem. It was the stress that was causing the problem. And now with the new science, it's called epigenetics. It sounds like genetics, but epi means above. So what we call skin, epidermis, because just below the surface skin is a layer called the dermis. Epidermis means above the dermis, that's the skin. So I say epigenetics means control epi, above the genes. And now there's a whole new understanding, because we're not victims of the genes. We understand now that we actually control our genetic activity through our consciousness, or subconscious, more importantly, because that's 95% of the time. A big important point. This is like, maybe a lot of people in the audience are going to freak when I say this, but for example, there's no gene that causes cancer. Everyone says, oh, oncogenes, cancer genes. I go, no, there's no gene that causes cancer. They're correlated with cancer, but they're not the cause. So especially like women are very concerned because they get, oh, I've got diagnosed, I have the BRCA, breast cancer gene. Immediately, what's the consciousness of the programming that people have? The gene is going to give me cancer. And now the fear of cancer rises in them because they say they have this gene. And then I go, well, guess what? 50% of the women carry this gene never get the cancer. So the first thing you have to understand is this: possession of the gene doesn't cause the cancer. It's a life that's not in harmony, a life that's out of balance. That's when that gene is activated. So we've been blaming genes, but we're never giving any credit or power to the person who can influence those genes. And this is what epigenetics is all about. Consciousness is controlling your genetic activity. When people follow the fate of a child adopted into a family where there's cancer, they find that the adopted child will get the same family cancer at the same probability as any of the natural siblings. So an adopted child gets that cancer. But here's the point. The adopted child came from totally different genetics. So it was not the genetics that pushed that cancer. It was being adopted into a family where the programming was not giving them wholeness, health, happiness. It's just stressful, very stressful programming. And as you said, stress. American Psychological Association recognizes 90% of doctor visits are stress-related visits. And we don't focus on the stress that's like, oh, a side thing. I say, no, it's not a side thing. It's the number one thing that is coming from the top down. And the genes are blueprints to make the proteins of the body, 100,000 different proteins, like building blocks, okay? Proteins are complex molecules, and they wear out. Proteins wear out all the time. So you have to replace them. I said, well, how do you replace this complex molecule? And the answer is DNA is a blueprint to make a protein. I go, so what? And I go, well, you go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint. And I say, well, ask her, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at it and go, what are you talking about? It's a blueprint. It's no on and off. I go, precisely. Genes cannot turn themselves on and off. They don't self-actualize. They're controlled by environmental signals. And all of a sudden, oh my God, well, if the environment is controlling this, then your programming in the environment, your lifestyle in the environment, and all these other things now become the primary controlling factor of your genes, not the genes. And we have to let go, because when I was programming the doctors that, oh, genes turn on and off and all that stuff, I was programming that people are victims. Because, as I said, as far as you know, you didn't pick the genes, you can't change them, they operate by themselves. And so we were programming victim. And then it turns out the new science of epigenetics is not victim, you're the one that's actually controlling it with your behavior. Well, what I have to say is this: knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge is a lack of power. When people don't know that they're involved with their own life and their own genetics and their own behavior because they're programmed to be the victim, then they become a victim because they have no knowledge of this. And what you're doing, what I'm doing, is let's wake up. You are powerful if you understand how this works. And if you don't understand how it works, you just say, no, it's not me. I'm not in control. And people walk away feeling like there's nothing I can do. The genes are controlling this, and I don't control the genes. I go, well, that's the story that's wrong. And when people are allowed to walk away from a medical practitioner with that belief, then that practitioner in no way has helped that patient. Because the idea is this: as you said, I've got to help them get a better attitude when they walk out of this building. I have to give them more power so that they have more power. Because if they walk out saying, there's nothing I can do, then the game is over at that point. A body is made out of 50 trillion cells. That's a number that is so massive that you can say it, but you can't imagine it. And every day, every one of us is losing hundreds of billions of cells every day, normal attrition. Skin cells are sloughing off. The whole digestive tract, the lining of the digestive tract from the mouth to the anus, this is massive amount of tract. The lining is replaced every 3 days. And I started to say, well, if I keep losing the cells, would I die? And I say, well, if you can't replace them, of course you would die. And I say, yeah, but then I say, how can I keep losing cells and still replace them? The answer is, before you were born, these were embryonic cells. that were giving you the structure and function, okay? After you're born, you still have embryonic cells in your body, but you're not an embryo. So we changed the name, call it stem cell, because before birth, I could do a biopsy and look, oh, say, here's an embryonic cell. If I wait 1 minute after birth, look at the same biopsy, look at the same cell, now it's, oh no, that's called a stem cell. So stem cells are embryonic cells. They're there to replace all the cells that are going wrong. So my research revealed that I was cloning stem cells, and that all of a sudden, what does that mean? I say I put one cell in a dish, one stem cell, and it divides every 10 hours about. After a week, I've got 30,000 cells in the Petri dish because they keep doubling and doubling and doubling, okay? Here's my experiment, and it was like so clear. I took those 30,000 cells, and now you have to recognize they're genetically identical cells because they only came from one parent. So 30,000 genetically identical cells. I split the cells up into 3 dishes, 10,000 cells in each dish. So all the dishes have genetically identical cells. But we grow them in the lab, something called culture medium. And this, we're going to come back to this. That's critical. Because what is culture medium? I'll give you a hint. Laboratory version of blood. So if I grow human cells, I say, what's human blood made out of? Because that's what nourishes cells. And I make a version in the lab called culture medium. Since I'm synthesizing culture medium, I can change some of the combinations of the chemistry. So I create 3 different versions of culture medium, slight chemistry difference. And I feed the cells. In one dish, I feed them version 1 of the culture medium, in the other version 2, and the third dish, version 3. In the first dish, the cells form muscle. In the second dish, the cells form bone. In the third dish, with a different environment, the cells form fat cells. And here I am teaching in medical school that genes control life, and here's my laboratory experiments to say, all these cells are genetically identical. How come one became muscle, how the other one became bone, how the other one became fat? And it was like, it was based on the culture medium. And all of a sudden I said, oh my God, the cell fate wasn't controlled by the genes, it was controlled by the environment in which the cells live. And if you change the environment, you change the fate of the cells. So that completely canceled the idea that genes were in control. Why? I got 50 trillion cells under my skin. Instead of a plastic dish, it's a skin dish inside. But I have the original culture medium, which is blood. And I say the chemistry of the culture medium, whether the cell's in a plastic dish or whether it's in the skin dish, it's still the culture medium that controls the fate of the cells. So in the human body, it's the blood chemistry that actually activates the genetics in the cell. And I go, so why is this significant? I say, well, what controls the blood chemistry? It's going to make an important point right here. And I say, the brain is the chemist and puts in the stuff into the growth factors, emotional chemicals, neuropeptides, things like that, adding it, putting it into the blood. And then comes the most important question. So the blood is the chemist putting the chemistry into the blood. The chemistry and the blood is the culture medium. So the chemistry of the culture medium is controlling the fate. Okay, got that. But then the most important question comes, what chemistry should the brain put in to the blood? What chemistry? And then comes the answer, which is so blow away. And the answer is this. Whatever picture you hold in your mind, the brain translates that into complementary chemistry. If I have a picture of love, my brain releases wonderful things into the blood, like dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin to bond with others, a growth hormone. And growth hormone does exactly what it says. So when you're in love, you're releasing this growth hormone, which enhances your vitality. And that's why when people fall in love, they get so healthy. They get, they say, oh, look how they glow. They're so in love. And I go, this is the chemistry of the blood engaging the behavior of the cells. But I say, well, but what if I'm holding a picture of something that scares me? I say, well, you're not going to release love chemistry. You start to release stress hormones and factors that affect the immune system and all that. And I said, well, that's a different chemistry. I go, yeah, just like in the culture dish, a different chemistry leads to a different genetic activity. And all of a sudden I says, oh my God, your thoughts are being turned into complementary chemistry, which then controls your genetics. And this all of a sudden says, well, then if I want to change my genetics, do I have to go in and change the cells in the genetics? I said, no. It's changing your thought. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and
Very much how I was so excited by the mechanism, the biology, and how the chemistry was adjusting, the genetics and all this. And I would love to tell people. And I remember every time I finished a lecture, the first question was, "How do you change it?" And I was like, at that time, I didn't have any idea how to change it. I just recognized how it worked, and it was so frustrating. But now I've really, over the years in my study, now I really understand how you change it. And the idea is, well, how do you change a program? That was the issue. Not how you change the conscious mind, how do you change the subconscious mind? Because it doesn't learn. Conscious mind learns by just whatever you read the book, I learned it, okay? Subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. I say, how does it learn? I say, well, in the first 7 years, that's when I said the programming went in. The brain wasn't functioning at the higher level of consciousness. It was actually a little lower. That was called theta, the vibration, the imagination and all that. That's hypnosis, okay? So the first way we learned programs was hypnosis, because the function of the brain was at a lower vibration. Some people might remember the old days when hypnotherapy, they'd have a watch, and the hypnotherapist said, swing the watch back and forth, and they would say, "You're getting tired, you're getting tired." And what was the point? When you get tired, you lower the vibration of the brain. And the moment you fall asleep, actually, consciously, the next level of activity of the brain is theta before it goes down to the lowest vibration, delta, sleep. So every night when you go to bed, there's a period just after you close your eyes and you're essentially disconnected for a moment, your brain is operating in theta. Well, theta is hypnosis, okay? So I said, well, that's how your brain was in theta during that childhood period as predominantly. Now you're an adult. I say, yeah, but you have theta every night when you go to bed. So I said, what can you do? And this is the old story. You've heard people do it. You put a pair of earphones on at night. You play a program that you want to be true in your life. And while you're awake, you might hear the program. But it's the moment you fall asleep, the conscious mind shut off, but the subconscious mind is now in record theta. So whatever is coming through the earphones at that moment after you fall asleep, you don't hear it, but the subconscious mind is hearing it and downloading it in a state of theta. So the first way of changing a belief system is to get into theta. And this is called self-hypnosis. Put the earphones on, play the programs for health, happiness, love, joy, whatever, and just go to sleep, which is really cool because you don't have there's no studying here. You just play the program. Yeah. Well, all these things are helpful, but the most specific ones are when you put in a program that you specifically want to be true in your life. You're not having good relationships. Well, these programs are available all like bookstores and online. They're called self-help programs, basically. And I say, well, you can get them for anything, whether it's job-related, relationship-related. You pick out the one you want. And then I say, just play this. And the point is, the moment you're falling asleep, the only part of you that is hearing that program is the subconscious, because that's how it works in theta. So you can download, it's called self-hypnosis, and that's how you can do it. That's number one. I'm talking about in a natural child, theta is the present program for the first 7 years, is predominantly that. So the second way that you put programs in is doing something that you practice and repeat. Practice and repeat. Habituation. You make a habit by practicing it. And so you don't know how to play an instrument. You practice. You finally get it. You don't have to practice anymore. You can just pick up the instrument and play it. Or driving a car. You don't have to worry about all the details. Or first time you got in the car was, oh my God, there are mirrors, windows, gauges, pedals, paying so many things you have to pay attention to. Today, you get in the car, you put the key in, you start it up, and you're thinking about where you're going. Why? The rest of the driving is habit. You don't have to think about all those things. It's automatically programmed. So habituation is the second form. It turns out, and this is really most important, is if you focus on the destination and not on the means, let the system, which is so powerful, it will get there without you telling it how to get there. But when you start to interfere and say, okay, now I got to make sure I swing it right, my head's level, my grip is right, and all of a sudden you're putting all those details in. It's like, no, don't focus on the details. You forgot what the end was. The end was the ball is supposed to go over there. And so that starts to come in, because now you're trying to control everything with with this manual control. And it's like, no, You don't have to have the manual control. Matter of fact, that gets in the way.
Yeah.
The body knows what you want. You don't have to tell it how to get there. That's a big issue in our lives because I want to be successful. How? Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. And I say, oh, you're planning all these things, and your conscious mind is not even any. The subconscious is 1,000,000 times more powerful a computer than the conscious mind. So I say you're going to take this little small conscious mind and try to run the bigger computer. It's like that doesn't work. Let go of the control. And this is the whole thing. I mean, it's I just came to my mind. A lot of people say, let go, let God, or something like that. There's some phrase that people always say. And I go, well, that's actually the way to do it. Focus on what you want, but don't try and tell the universe how it's going to happen. Don't tell them that I'm going to do this and this is going to happen. I go, no, you just focus on what you want. The intelligence of this supercomputer, the subconscious supercomputer, it won't handle it unless you put your hands into the machine. I said, keep your hands out of the machine. Focus on where that ball's going to go. I mean, he already practiced. Remember I said, we did the habit. We did the practice. Whether you're driving a car or hitting the golf ball, practice. This is exactly what it's all about. You don't think about the details of driving when you're driving. You know, they just automatically, you could have conversation, you could be off in thought, and you're still driving the car. Good. Have a character. They read the character, they learn the lines, but they have to act like a character, okay? It's not just reading the words. You get someone like Renee Zellweger, and she did the diary or something. I forgot. Yeah. And it's interesting because the character is 40 pounds heavier than Renee. And when she got into character, guess what? She gained 40 pounds. Her conscious, the program just, okay, I'm 40 pounds. When she got finished playing the character, then the 40 pounds disappeared. As long as she was in the character, she became the character. Dustin Hoffman, one of the great actors, was playing Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman, a very depressive character. And he was brilliant at it, except that he had to check out and go out of the theater and go into a hospital, a neurological hospital, because he became so depressed because he took on the character of this person. And what I'm trying to say is, who you think you are is what you could get there. But now the problem is, who do you think you are? And I go, well, that's part of the programming. When we grow up, here's the biggest problem in programming, I'll tell you right now. Parents act as coaches for their kids. I go, what does that mean? I say, well, let's say a kid on a sports team isn't doing well. The coach doesn't say, oh, please try harder. No, he says, that's not good enough. Who do you think you are? You don't deserve to be on this team. But this kid is older and conscious and aware when the coach is saying that, the coach is trying to say, do better. That's what you should do. A child under 7 is not in consciousness, but a child under 7 is in record. So the parent's acting as the coach. That's not good enough. Who do you think you are? You could do better than this. I say, the child under 7 is, I'm not smart enough. I'm not deserving. I'm not good enough. That's a program, okay? They didn't understand the meaning of the parent under 7 because consciousness was not that function of the brain at that time. Just record. And I say, well, this is where the problems come from in our lives. Because parents want to help us, so they figure if they needle you, stick you, that you're going to do better without recognizing if the child's under 7, they don't have any comprehension of what you're saying, but they are recording. And then you'd say, well, then 95% of my life is coming from what? Not smart enough, not good enough, not deserving. And if that's the program that's running, then the behavior will manifest that program. Not good enough, not smart enough, not healthy, whatever it is. And so we have to recognize we become these programs. And if you want to change, that's when I say, the new age, I always laugh about it, it's called fake it till you make it. I said, what does that mean? I said, well, you're not a happy person. I go, so what? And I say, then all day long, whenever you can remember, you just say, I am happy. I am happy. No matter how miserable you are, you just keep repeating it because repeating is habituation. Practice, repeat. And then one day you wake up and guess what? You're happy. Why? Because once that program is installed, then the expression of that subconscious will manifest that program. If I'm going to put out, anger or something, I'm going to receive something that resonates with anger. If I'm angry, I'm not going to activate a happy person, but I will activate somebody who will respond to anger. It's called resonance, and what you put out will return to you what you put out. People want to be recognized at some point. Like in the city, everybody walks eyes on the street or eyes not looking at other people and stuff like that. It's like, so the other people don't exist. But I noticed when I was living in New York that if I just walked down the street and I could catch somebody's eyes and I'd give them a smile, that's all I do is just look at them with a smile. All of a sudden, they would just make this response that somebody recognized them as being this person. And that is what, in a world where nobody recognizes you, all of a sudden somebody looks at you and smiles. It's like, it's contagious. They start to smile all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And this is it, because we've been programmed, stay away or, don't engage and all that. And I go, well, that's where the big problem comes from, because when people are not part of a community, then they don't participate as a community at that point. They're on their own. And people just want to be acknowledged. And rarely does anybody resist hearing that, oh, have a wonderful day and something like that, from meaning, not just flat words, have a wonderful day. No, meaning it. And so, again, and this is part of the physics, quantum physics, everything is vibration. You put out a good vibration. The only thing that responds to a good vibration is a good vibration. Bad vibrations are on a different frequency. They don't mix each other. You put out a vibration, you're going to get back what that vibration is. It's called resonance. And so if you're an unhappy person and you're broadcasting that, the only person that will be affected by that unhappiness is somebody else is unhappy because they're resonating from the same thing. So all of a sudden I realized, as I started to change, is like, be happy. Just be happy. And it's like, people want to be happy. That's an innate, that's like a child. Children are born in love. And then they acquire whatever the behavior is from their parents and stuff like that. But innately, a child is recognizing love, because love means safety. I'll give you a very important fact. I work in belief change programs with people. And when we have people test for the belief, I love myself, 80 to 90% of every audience will not test positive to I love myself. And I go, where the hell did this come from? Well, the first thing is this: being criticized as a child, because you downloaded the criticisms, not good enough, not smart enough, not lovable, whatever the parents were trying to help you get better, they made it worse because they put those programs in. I started to recognize, oh my God, people, if you can't love yourself, then you can't accept love. That's the other very important thing. Because someone says they love you and you have a mind, I'm not lovable, then you look at them and go, well, obviously you have no quality control. I know I'm not lovable. What are you saying? And you'll push people away, and then nobody will be there. And then guess what? You say, see, I'm not lovable. Nobody's here. But you didn't realize you were responding to that. It was a wake-up call to myself when I realized I was not loving myself. And when you're not loving yourself, you will sabotage yourself all the time, because then you'll manifest the truth. See, I'm not lovable. Nobody's here. You didn't realize you chased them away. Now they're not here. I changed that. And that was the most critical moment, because if I love myself, then I'm happy with myself. And a lot of people are not happy with themselves. And when somebody else is unhappy, and they're unhappy, man, that's the resonance that pushes them to stay in that place. Remember, you'll attract whatever you're sending out. And when I changed that, my life changed. My life was so profoundly changed by that, because I can maintain, as you said, how can you maintain happiness when other people around you are not in happiness? And the answer is, because then you don't connect with them. They can say their words or anything, but it has no connection with you, because it doesn't stimulate unhappiness in me. I'm happy. So all of a sudden, it's that they're unhappy. I can't resonate with that, because they'll send that unhappy vibe, and I have no receptor for unhappy. So all of a sudden, it's like I could walk through the world of people that are not unhappy, but it doesn't come off on me at all. I don't, I'll just continue walking. But then what will happen is, if I'm happy, then those other people that will see that want to participate. As I said, people want to be happy. People want to be loved. And that's a drive. And yet our programming behavior takes that out of us, and then we start resonating with the negative programs, and we attract people that have the same kind of negative issues, and then we're surrounded by, this is not helping me, all these people around here. And I change, and then all of a sudden I say, look who's around me, all these wonderful people. How'd that happen? I go, because now we resonate together, and the ones that are unhappy, they don't want to be around me because I don't feed their unhappiness with my unhappiness. I don't feed them. And so they don't get what they're looking for if they're coming toward me with that. 100%. This is so important because I have a memory of a point in my life where that changed, just like boom, just like somebody turned a switch. Because I was on the edge of, I could have been diagnosed as manic depressive. Well, happy most of the time, but once it started going wrong, then it was like, this is wrong. And then I give myself the abuse verbally. Oh, you're stupid. You're not good enough. What's wrong with you, Lipton? And I'd be doing that. And I was in my lab, and I just spent a procedure that took about an hour to prepare for the experiment. And if you mess it up just a little bit, you have to start all over again. The third time that day, I messed it all up, and now I'm really upset. I spent the whole damn day doing this. It didn't work, and then I'm getting, oh, you idiot, you can't do anything right. And I was giving myself like a parent on my shoulder telling me that's not good enough. And I'll never forget, I was alone in the lab, and I hear this voice, and there's nobody there. I hear this voice, like, and the voice says, don't you have anything better to do than to listen to this crap? I looked around, I started to laugh because I said, sure, I'd rather go to a movie. So there was a newspaper. I picked up the paper, I found a movie, went off to the theater. Guess what? That whole dialogue ended instantly. I had a choice. That's what it was saying. I have a choice. Do you want to continue this conversation, or do you want to do something else? That was the moment of empowerment that was so great because it said, stop, stop. Do something else. Get out of here. And next time I started to get a little depressed, first thing that came back was the humor of that, and I'd laugh, and I go, okay, I'll do something else. After 3 or 4 times, guess what? I've never been depressed since that time. Never. Why? It just doesn't hold in my mind. If a depression, like a negative thing starts happening, I don't sit there and play it over and over and over again, which makes you go downhill. I just, I have a choice. It's a choice. Do I want to listen to this stuff, or do I want to do something else? If you can get consciousness to step in for 1 second and say, do you want to do this? That's all you need to have, that question. Do you want to do this? And if the answer is no, then all of a sudden, guess what? It was a moment of choice. Go do something else. Thought is something you can perpetuate. You can keep these thoughts going, and that's the unfortunate part, because if your programming doesn't give you really positive thoughts, once these negative thoughts keep running, they just run on like that record just keeps playing and playing, and it'll take you downhill all the time. And as you just said, how simple is it? Stop. I remember there was a show, Bob Newhart, the comedian, and he was a psychologist, and somebody started, in his office, a patient, and then he just looked at him and said, stop that, stop that. And that was actually what the whole idea was, stop it. But we have a tendency just to keep the record going, I say, is this record going to take you up? And I say, hell no, this is the downhill record. When's it going to get better? It's not going to get better. So what are you going to do? Stop. Just stop. Bob Newhart, just stop. People say it, but most people don't understand it. But from a biomedical physics point of view, life is energy. Energy in our body is what fuels us, keeps us moving. And I talk to people, I say, how much of your energy are you giving away every day? And I say, what do you mean? I say, you're putting out energy. Are you getting anything back from this? Or are you making any changes out there with your energy? You can go into a bar, you can have a political argument with somebody, get heated up, which is wasting energy. You get all riled up and you got this argument, and then you walk out of the bar and say, what changed? Did you change anything here? And I go, absolutely not. I said, did you get heated up? Yeah. Did you spend all that energy? Yeah. Did you get anything out of it? Absolutely not. I come up with the idea of, we have a checkbook with our account in the bank. I said, that money in the bank is energy. That's what it is, that you can do things with. I said, you don't just write checks for nothing. You don't give, oh, wow, what a nice smile you have. Here's $50 for you, or 50 pounds or whatever. And I go, you don't just pass out this money. I say, why not? Because you know, if you write this check, you're taking it out of your resource and you're not getting anything from it. I said, what if I gave you an energy checkbook? I said, what does that mean? I say, well, if you're going to use your life energy and you're going to write a check here, are you getting anything back from that energy you just spent? I say, can you change something? No. Then why the hell are you putting your energy into it? You know, I put my energy into things that enhance my life or enhance the life of my community. That's where I put my energy. And why? Because it's giving me something productive with my energy. Most people waste their energy with arguments and all kinds of stuff like that. You're not changing anything. You're just using your life, because energy is life. And so it's basically, I said, well, if I give you that energy checkbook, I bet you'd be very much more cautious about how you're using your life energy during the day. Because if you're just wasting it, you didn't get nothing out of it. You changed nothing. So that's how I look at it. I say, if I'm going to put my time into this, do I get something, or does my community get something? If not, I disconnect. Why? Because what am I going to, that's my life. Why do I want to give energy to this when I have no influence over what's going to happen? You can get all the political arguments you want. You're not going to change politics. You know, you can watch the news, and that's the part, because then you get caught up in the story. And I say, yeah, you're caught up in the story. What can you change here? Nothing? Why are you getting caught up in the story? Because you have no influence over the story, except they can eat your energy up, and you can't. And there's nothing that energy that you just used will do to help any of that stuff you just saw on that news. And people, if they actually had to write a check for spending their life energy, all of a sudden you're going to see how quickly lives are going to improve. Because what they're going to do is now keep that energy for their life instead of giving it away. Remember, we have a conscious creative mind with wishes and desires and a subconscious mind with program. Science has recognized when people fall in love, they stop thinking. And I say, what do you mean they stop thinking? They stay what is called mindful. They stay present. I go, why? You've been looking for this person your whole life. If you're thinking, you're disconnecting. So when you first fall in love, you stay present. You want to be there. You're taking in the love, the joy. Everything is great. And I say, well, what does that mean? Well, if you stay in the conscious mind, then you're not playing the program. I go, oh, conscious mind's creative. I go, what happens if two people come together and are only playing creative? Well, then they create heaven on earth. And I said, but then why does it disappear? Because inevitably you start thinking again, because you have a job, responsibilities, whatever it is. And I say, the moment you start thinking, then the behavior that you're playing is not you, it's the program. And your partner that you fell in love with never saw your program, because during the honeymoon, you never played your programs. And then all of a sudden, you're thinking, your partner comes in and asks you some little simple thing, and then you go, blah, blah, blah. And your partner looks at you and goes, who are you? And you're going, like, what are you talking about? And the answer is, what happened? My loving, creative mind, conscious, was not engaged with my partner at that moment. My subconscious, what did I do? I just played my father. My God. That's my partner looks at me like, who are you? Where did that come from? And it's like, and then you got to remember, when you're playing your subconscious programs, you're the one that doesn't know you're playing it. So it's like, what are you talking about? I say to her, yeah, she said, well, you said this. I said, that's not me. Yeah, but it wasn't me. It was a program. And when the more programs come back into the relationship from both sides, we didn't get together on a honeymoon because of our programs. We got together because of our conscious wishes and desires mind. But once the programs from our family history and all that starts to play into this thing, it disrupts the relationship. When you're not thinking, that means your conscious mind's not looking inside. And if your conscious mind is now looking outside, it's engaging with the world. And I say, yeah, but what is the conscious mind? Wishes, desires, aspirations, what you want, creative. Well, who's controlling the behavior while you're having these thoughts? I go, that's when the subconscious kicks in and plays the program. But is that you? And I go, no, the subconscious is not you. The subconscious is the programming you downloaded.
Yeah.
That's the story, like I said, Bill, you're just like your dad. And he denies that he's like his dad, because when he plays those programs, He's the only one that can't see it.
Yeah.
So when we play subconscious programs, by definition, why are we playing these programs? The answer is because your conscious mind's engaged and it's not paying attention to what you just said. Human behavior, science recognizes the fact. Human behavior is precipitating what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. And the first thing it implies, well, there must have been 5 mass extinctions before. And I go, yes, there was. Life was thriving on this planet 5 different times, and something happened that upended the whole planet to some degree. Some of the 5 times, 90% of life disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
The last mass extinction was 66 million years ago. That's when there were dinosaurs here. Planet was flush. There were forests and everything. It was just thriving. And a comet, big giant comet, hit near in Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula. The comet was so big, it upended the web of life. And the web of life has a collapse. The dinosaurs, 75% of life disappeared, including all the dinosaurs disappeared. And then evolution, we started all over again. And today we're at a point where we're now losing species 1,000 times faster than background. And it's estimated that human behavior is going to cause the loss of another 1 or 2 million species on this planet because we're not living in harmony with nature. Okay, we're upsetting a balance. We're facing this. So it's human behavior that is causing this problem. So it's interesting because we have to change our behavior faster. We can't just keep on the same behavior because we're creating the problem with this behavior. So I said, well, what happened? A new form of psychology has come about called energy psychology. It's not typical cognitive therapy where you talk about, oh, this person did that, my mom did this, my friend did that, and this is why I'm here, and you cry, and you got tissues, and you review your life, and I go, it works for some, but it's not that really good because when you do cognitive therapy, you were replaying all the problems that you had. So you're just like pushing the button every time, like, that's why all the tissues are there because you cry all over this. I say that the new version is called energy psychology. I don't have to go backwards to find out how I got a program. I have the program. I don't have to go back and say, who created that program in me? What incidents created that? Who was responsible? That's more the cognitive end. And I go, it's irrelevant. Why? You have the program now. They're not here anymore. So do I have to go back? And the answer is no, you have to deal with the program. And I said, well, what's the program? Well, we talked about that. I said, just look at your life, wherever you're struggling. It's not because the universe wants you to struggle. You're struggling because you're programmed. So now this thing is, do I have to go back? I say, no, what is it you want versus what you have? And there's a process called super learning. And you go, what's super learning? Well, I can tell you some people how they go into a bookstore and they can move their finger down the page of a book. As fast as they move that finger down, just like boom, like a second or two, they read every word on that page. That's super learning. You could read a book in 15 minutes or something like that. If you can engage the super learning process, then you can get a reprogramming, not in days, weeks, or whatever. You can get a reprogramming of your programs in 15, 20 minutes. Walk away completely different after that. And that's because we've got to change our behaviors really quickly in order to sustain us on this planet right now. So energy psychology is a number of modalities that engage the super learning process. And in that process, then you can rewrite a program and walk away 15, 20 minutes later with a different life experience. It's like miracle, magic I've experienced. I wouldn't have been able to write my books if I didn't do a reprogram my subconscious. And all of a sudden I said, well, where are these? Let me just help people very quickly. My website is simple, brucelipton.com, okay? On there, I have a description of about 25 different energy psychology modalities, a little description on a website. And if you're interested, then just look these up. And if you find one that appeals to you, then check out their website and see what's going on. But to me, having experienced this, having understanding all of this, and then experiencing it is like, oh my God, to me, that's like a miracle in today's world. Because habituation, repeating things, it takes many times to repeat, or even the earphones on at night, self-hypnosis, because theta is only a short period. You have to repeat that overnight, or, for many times. Energy psychology, you can have an experience and walk away 15, 20 minutes later. When you go back and you play it over and over again, you're just repeating the same trauma over and over and over again. So you're making a habit to continue the trauma by experiencing it again and again and again. You're just repetition. That's what we talked about, habituation. Now you're just taking an old pattern and habituating it to even make it stronger than it was before.
Yeah.
So there's so many different ways. So the program you just said, these are ways that how can I shortcut the system, and how can I get in touch with that subconscious to do this? And this is really we want to fix ourselves, but we always think it will change the world. The world is causing the problem. Look, you wake up in the morning, you wake up and you say, today I'm going to get healthier. Today I'm going to find that relationship or a better job. And you go out all day and you come home at night and it didn't work. And I said, well, what does the average person think about in that regard? They got up in the morning, today I'm going to be successful. They came home not being successful. I said, what do they think about at that moment? They go, oh man, well, that person interfered with me and this thing interfered and that thing happened. And all of a sudden, what are they saying? I'm a victim of these things out there that interfere with my destination. And then I go, well, here's the joke part. You didn't realize all day long you were playing the programs that manifested those things all day long. So that disempowers us because it says, I'm not responsible for this problem. All these other people are responsible for this problem because you did not see your own participation in this thing. They're downloading whatever you tell them. If you start telling them the story that you want them to be, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're beautiful, you're powerful, repeating this because you remember, they're downloading these behaviors, okay? And so when they are operating 95% of their life and they're defaulting to these subconscious programs, what are these programs? I'm powerful, I'm capable, I can do anything, I'm smart, because most of us are defaulting to the criticisms. Not good enough, who do you think you are? You don't deserve this. I go, well, both situations are right. Whatever program you put in, you're going to manifest. So if I'm going to be a parent, then I want my child to start off with, we love you. You are one, giving every positive statement to that child as an infant, even just after they're born. And I go, people think, oh, they start talking baby talk. I say, this kid is downloading your words right now because the subconscious is a download. And I say, so what are you saying to this child? And that becomes critical because then whatever you're programming at this point will activate 95% of the life of that child later. If you habituate a new behavior, then that will download.
Yeah.
It takes a little longer, but than before age 7, but it's still how you put a program in. Habit, repeating and repeating this, it becomes habit at that point. I wake up in love. I just wake up in love. The rest of the day flows so beautifully. There's no practices anymore for myself. Why? I put those programs in. They run automatically. I don't have to even practice it because practicing means I don't have the program and I want to make the program. But if you already have the program, then you don't have to do the practice. And all of a sudden, you just naturally wake up, you're in love, you naturally are helping your partner, your community, your friends. It's natural. So it's not like, let me work on this. Let me be more loving to my partner. It's like, I don't have to be more loving to my partner. We're already fully in love. It's like, people say, I love you more or something. I say, no, I always tell my wife, how much love? Full amount. It's like the gas tank. How much love? Oh, I'm filled up with love. You can't put any more love in there. It's already filled up. It's already there. And so practice by definition means something's not working and you want to engage yourself to make it work, and then you do a practice. But what if you did the programming already? When I got with my partner, Margaret, I still had programs from my parents that weren't any good. But she knew about programming. I know about programming. And this is the important part, because if a couple doesn't know about programming, then when some behavior shows up unexpectedly, it's like, whoa, who are you? What's this all about? But if you already know that programs exist and a bad program comes up, it doesn't go into an argument. It can go into a discussion. Do you want to have this program? And then I would say, what program? Well, oh, you didn't see what you just said or did? And it's like, oh. And I said, well, let's change the program. And then we change the program. So what do? Over a period of time, you edit these programs. And when it gets to the point of it's editing, then do I have to practice more editing? I go, no, I changed these programs already. Here's a simple point. I said the conscious mind is wishes and desires. The subconscious mind is program. Yes. What if you took your wishes and desires and put them in as programs? Then the answer is what? Whether you're conscious or whether you're subconscious, you're still going to the same destination.
Yeah.
And that's the secret part. This is not a lifelong struggle. Once the programs are set, you don't have to work on it anymore. It's already done.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I got to do this every day. I go, no, if it's a program, you will automatically do it every day without even thinking you're doing it. So we came here to create. But if you've been programmed, then you're not creating, the program is creating. And the idea is if you can then use your creation to put the program in that you want, then you can manifest what you want in this life. That's basically what it is. And the idea is, what is it we're really looking for? As I said, a lot of people, give me the money, give me the money. I go, the money you think is going to make you happy. And I'm going to say, look, there are a lot of rich people, the unhappiest people I've ever seen in my life. And so it's not that, but we've been some kind of program, the competition, get this, you'll have this, you're going to be better. And some of the poorest people are some of the happiest people I've ever seen. And then all of a sudden it starts to realize then happiness is not a physical thing. I need to get things to be happy. And I just have to say, I know life from both sides. My first formative years, I was programmed to be a scientist. I was programmed to be educated. That was my family, just like in your family. Go ahead, get this education. And I got this education. I didn't get programmed how to be a happy person. I didn't get programmed how to be a good partner. That was not part of the program. And so I failed at that end. But now I've compensated for that. And the absolute truth is, and I believe this with the most certainty, that people think you die and then you can go to heaven if you did well. And I say, boy, you missed it, because this to me is heaven. I say, why is this heaven? I say, because this is where you came to create. We're creating. And unfortunately, we've been programmed to create stuff that we don't even like. So then we're not creators. We're just playing the program. And if you understand it, then don't waste this life, because heaven on earth is a reality. This is. And I didn't know it for 40 years, but I live this every minute now. And it was interesting. My mother married when she was older, remarried. And she married this guy that I thought he was a curmudgeon, and he was just somebody I didn't even really want to be around. But my mother was happy, fine. But the story about it that was so neat is that he lived to 97, and he had cancer, and my mother took care of him at home. And the last week of his life, he essentially wasn't even there. He was just in a more like a coma kind of thing. And then 2 days before he died, his eyes opened up and he was there. He was there. And he said to her, I didn't have any fun. And I thought, oh my God, 97 years old. He's going to die in a couple of days. And it just dawned on him. He didn't have any fun. And I thought, I'm not going out that way. I'm going out saying, my God, thank you for this opportunity to be here. I want people to wake up and realize the creative nature of love, health, harmony, heaven on earth, because that is available. And yet we struggle, and there's no reason for this.